Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Our Four Cents. This is Edmond and Stephanie Lee.
Hi.
And we're the Lees. And so if you haven't watched any of our other videos, make sure you do so. We got a lot of good stuff in them. And go ahead and click like, subscribe, and click the little notifications if you'd like more information and tips that we're giving. So first of all, we're going to talk today about three more things, which is the second part of a series talking about just things that we have learned prior to getting engaged, being married, and being a young couple, and things that have helped us. So we wanted to start first with talking about goals and goal setting. And the reason we want to talk about goals is because when a lot of people, some of the people that we've talked to that are older, they say, look, if you don't grow together, you grow apart, unless you know and give space for different growth and lanes. But some goals are pretty solid. Some goals in life and lifestyle goals have to mesh up in order for you to find somebody, even when you're dating, to kind of know what to look for. So with no further ado, we're going to talk about a thing called SMART goals. So if you haven't heard of SMART goals, you may have, you may not. So this may be a refresher or maybe something totally new. You can use this in your life, in your business, and at your job, with your kids, doesn't matter. So what a SMART goal is basically an acronym. And the first thing in the SMART goal is the S. So the S is about being specific. You want to be specific on the actual goal that you're setting and what that actual target is. And the M
is measurable. And measurable means having a certain amount of time or a certain number that you can easily recognize when you've met it. So not, I want to lose weight, I want to lose 10 pounds. That's a measurable goal because you know when you hit the 10-pound mark, you know you've met it. So M is for measurable.
And the other one, the A is for attainable. Is the goal even realistically attainable in the time frame that you want to achieve it? So staying on the 10 pounds, say, I want to lose 10 pounds tomorrow. Well, is that physically possible? Yes, and but you'll probably be sick or you do something drastic for that to happen. But you want to set it in a time frame that you actually know you can actually accomplish. So that's the A.
And the R is relevant. So is the goal relevant to life, relevant to the type of life that you're trying to build? When we specifically talk about SMART goals for yourself individually or as a couple, is the goal relevant for the time and space that you're in? So
yeah, I mean, just ending on that is like, does it matter, you know, and how does it impact you in your life? And the other one, and the last part is the time. That's the one that a lot of people don't do. You know, goals without timelines are just kind of dreams. They're not actually really goals because you don't have a time to hold yourself accountable or when you even would like to. However, being rigid in your SMART goals with other people can be difficult because you're coming in with your set predetermined goals for both people. And that's the part we want to talk about. So we want you all to create your own short-term and long-term goals. And these are just business, career, whatever. And then create something that you would like ideally for a couple if you do meet somebody or if you're in a relationship, but be open to the fact that they have their goals and they may or may not be the exact timeline. So Steph, you want to talk on that at all?
It's just really important to, I don't have anything specific to be honest, but it's just really important to talk about what your goals are and talk about, you know, where you want to achieve them, when you want to achieve them, giving each other room, giving each other support. Talk about the goals that are really important now versus stuff that can wait. Be open, especially when you're in relationships, to be flexible with each other's goals because life kind of will direct some of these goals. Some of these goals you'll be able to just meet and do what you need to do, but then life will kind of direct how you prioritize some of these goals. So just be open. Even though it's great to be direct and focused, be open and flexible.
Yeah, and I give you an example. You know, let's say your goal your goal is to hit a certain plateau in your job or your career by X amount of time. Think about how much time that will take. Is it something that you want to have with children, or do you want to hold off, or do you even want children, or how many? These are the types of things that are very important in a conversation with a partner. And the second thing is when you're listening to somebody else's goals, even if it's their dreams, if you think they can achieve it or think they cannot achieve it, that's not your place. Your place is to just listen. There's an example on the TV show, you know, the Married at First Sight show, where the guy, one of his goals is to be an actual basketball coach, at least part-time. My actual best friend and best man at my wedding is a basketball coach, and I totally understand the difference he makes in young men's lives. And he's very, very fulfilled with that role, and he makes good money. He makes good money doing it. He didn't at the beginning because he started and worked his way up. But somebody, you know, his wife is very supportive of that. So, you know, in the scenario, the person wasn't necessarily as supportive at first because he doesn't make a lot of money. But some people's goals do not basically have the same reasoning behind what you might do something. So I'm just saying, be open to someone else's goals and what they are, and how you could be supportive in them.
Okay, so that actually leads us to the second bullet that we have for the 3 things for this video. The second bullet is learning balance in marriage. So we talk about flexibility. When people think about balance in marriage, we automatically think 50-50. If you're married, then you know that's not the case. But balance in marriage is something that's really important, because I think when you first get married, you come in and you're like, this person completes me, even if you don't even have that type of ideal, but it's this extension of me, and this person's gonna do this and I'm gonna do this, and that's how it's gonna work out. And balance, true balance, usually lends itself to whatever the priority is. So if the balance, we can go back to the weight thing, because that's easy. If your balance is, I want to lose 10 pounds in the next month, you'll probably focus higher on working out every day. So something else might have to play second fiddle for at least a month so that you can hit that goal. And I think that not enough people come into marriage really thinking about the sacrifice and the compromise that it takes to really balance things. And when you really prioritize your goals and you prioritize what needs to be done when, then you may not be the priority. Your goal may not be the priority, or what you want at that moment may not be the priority, and that's okay. Learning to be flexible in the balance of marriage is something that will help you sustain a great marriage, because it won't be a, well, it's my turn, or this isn't fair, or you have more of this, and it'll be like, okay, if his focus right now is what we're focusing on as a unit, then we're throwing our resources and our energy that way. If my, you know, whatever I have going on is what's important for this season, then we're throwing our energy and resources that way. And the balance is like a dance. A balance is like a perfect dance, and you kind of sway wherever the lead goes at the time. So it's really important to wrap your mind around that, because I don't think people really know how much the compromise happens before they get into marriage. We all know, oh yeah, of course you compromise. That's a great relation. You know, it sounds so pretty, but it's not always going to be fair, and that's not necessarily unfair if you think about it. So, you
know, I like to relate things to sports a lot of time because it's easy for us guys to understand. It's kind of like, you know, if you go to a certain team, if you go to the Patriots, it's an NFL team, right, that wins a lot of Super Bowl. You already know.
Go Pates.
It's not Pates, it's Pats. But anyway, it's an inside joke. Oh my God! We should show that video of her actually saying that to a Patriots fan.
I said that for years. I thought,
Go
okay,
Pates.
It makes sense. For me, it makes sense. Short for Patriots. I said Go Pates for many years. I was recently told that that was not the short name for
by
Patriots.
a person from the New England, Boston area that was like, what? She stopped. We recorded it. I'm going to have to see if we can find that and upload it for you all as an extension to this. But anyway, that team is known for winning championships. You don't go there unless you won a championship. And they don't really care who is the hero at the time. You know, Tom Brady is normally the hero, but in the last Super Bowl, he wasn't. But the bottom line is, it's not about your individual goals. It becomes our goals. So the big goal is to win a championship. Now, if you want to catch a bunch of touchdowns in that process, that's cool. But your catching touchdowns is not bigger than our goals. So you sit down and you talk about your short term, their short term, and be open and try to see how you can find when is the season for that. Prime example, the air conditioning unit. I think that is the biggest understated thing that nobody talks about. It is the biggest thing that causes battles in marriages. So she's very hot-natured. I'm very cold-natured, as you can see. So it's I didn't even plan this, but we compromise the heat. I mean, not the heat. We live in Florida, but we keep it at a certain temperature most throughout the day. She's gone for work. I work from home. When she gets back, I cool it down a little bit before she gets home. We keep it kind of cool, and then at night we turn it down even lower. But she bought me an electric blanket for my side. You know, I don't need that right now. But I'm just saying, we have certain things that we had to work, because when you're single, you can just have the air on whatever you want all the time. And it's not just a preference thing. Like, she actually gets hot and sweats, and I actually have allergies, and it's not pretty when it's super cold for me. So that's one of the things about compromising. And then the other thing is, I don't even like the phrase incomplete. And a lot of people saying they complete me, because it states it's a subconscious thing that's saying you by yourself is incomplete, which is not true. There are a lot of complete people that live a life fully single, that are complete in their marriage, and then you both bring 110%, not 50-50, but you both have to give 110% of wherever you are and wherever you got going on, because that person my 50% in cleanliness or my 100% in cleanliness is probably 25% of her. So if we both went that level, we'd be off. Even though I'm not a dirty person by no means, but stuff have their own little organized dysfunction for me at times. And her, not the same. So anyway, I'm going to leave that alone before I get in trouble. So let's go on to the next one. Vanna Black?
Stop it. Okay, so the last tip for this video is gender roles. And this is, yeah, right. This is a hot topic because it's something that is really important. It's something that's always evolving, but there is some sort of lack of awareness sometimes that it's evolving. And sometimes, well, a lot of times we tend to either mimic our families or we do the complete opposite. And you don't really know how significant the gender role is for you until I think you get into marriage. You may know what you want, but I think thinking and doing is two different things. So if a woman traditionally is like, I'd love to be traditional and do all that stuff. Well, maybe when you get married and you start realizing that your day is filled with cooking and laundry and picking up after your husband and the kids, and you have no life by yourself and you have nothing going on, maybe you might realize that that might not be fun for you, and you might want a hybrid of that. You know, if a man comes into a marriage and they feel that a thing should go a certain way, they might start realizing that there are cons to that certain way for them. And I think it's just really important, because when we hear gender roles, we think, okay, the man goes to work, woman stays at home, she cooks, we're still, even though we're so far from that, we're still in this place where gender roles means a thing. And so when we talk about what gender roles we want, so often we stuff ourselves into these categories and then get really frustrated and then start figuring out that the gender roles is actually the role that you assign yourself with your partner. Yeah. It's not this role. It's, okay, these are important aspects of my gender role. This is how I'd like to fulfill it. This is what I want it to look like. What do you think? And like, how can we make a hybrid of that?
And so for example, you going back to the goal, that's why everything in this section all relates together. So if we have SMART goals, if our goals are to, you know, travel the world, et cetera, and we have debt, let's just say you marry somebody with debt or whatever. Well, at a certain time, the role might be, well, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I can make more lump sums. Right now, you take care of X amount of percentage of the bills. I'll put 100% of my income towards our debt, even if it's not even your debt, even if it's that person's or whatever, but it's your goal, because now it's both of you all. So now for the next year and a half, we'll be done with debt. Then those funds can go to bills, house expansion, whatever. So,
and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to jump in. Whoever's debt is all of y'all's debt.
Yeah, it is legally. So it is your debt.
When you do get married, you know, a lot of people say, well, I brought this in, and you have some guilt associated with it, but I brought this in, you know, this is mine or whatever, but it's ours now, because you're a whole pie together.
If you don't believe us, go try to buy a house.
Yeah,
and see what happens.
You're no longer pieces. So I just wanted to jump in. That debt is, we acquire each other's debt.
Yeah. Even though you can buy a house individually, and we actually recommend that, because you can actually use the other, well, not recommend it, if you want to use the other person's credit to buy investment properties, etc. That's a whole nother kind. We're going to talk about finance in another video. But the other thing about that is, when you look at the role of the house, just think about it. How do you want to show up in the role? So just think about the cooking, the clean. Like, I was taught to cook, taught to clean, and I do clean, but organizing is a different thing. Like, my brain just doesn't even organize in the way hers does. In the left, it should go here, it should go here, and she's not an a-hole with it, But she
Everything has a
ways.
home. Everything has a home.
Home is home.
A home is everywhere for you. Home is where you're.
It'll be nice and neat. It'll be on the side of the like room, but it's neat in a little pile. It makes sense.
It's not always neat in a pile.
What?
It's in a pile.
That's neat.
Okay. All right.
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on what it is.
Y'all
like,
see what
like,
I'm dealing with. Over
but you're talking about like hard drives or something. That's a neat pile.
Okay.
I'm not talking about like a pile of clothes.
Right.
Anyway, I'm not a slob.
No, you're not.
So I don't want people to think that.
It's just, organization is different for everyone.
Anywho, so we both cook. She cooks more. We both make money, and over time, it's all about a goal for the card game that some of you all know about. That's like the goal for both. We really want to push that and make that be the number one income, which we both work on. And it's really, her vision, her brand, and it's a team thing. So, it really just depends on what you create with your partner. And then I think also you got to remember, we're not in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, or 80s. And women are getting great jobs, great, income, and some men are taking longer to hit that stride and hit the income, especially if they're an entrepreneur, and vice versa. So you really have to have those conversations. And then the last thing is when you compare your parents and what you saw growing up, you also have to compare it to your desired lifestyle. Our parents didn't have the lifestyle. They work, but they don't travel as much as us. They don't have the aspirations to travel as much as they don't have a lot of the different toys and stuff that we like to have, not even from a materialistic side, but we really like experiences. And their major focus was to make money, pay the bills, and take care of kids. That was like it. So you have to think about it. If that's your role and goal, then make sure that your roles align with that.
Yeah, and it's okay to have a mashup, and whatever you decide. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, I have a friend. She has her master's in social work, and she was a therapist for a long time, and she got married, she had children, she's now a stay-at-home mom, and her husband own a business. There's nothing wrong with any of it.
That's a hard job by itself.
Listen, being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job ever. So
especially if you don't know how to, there's some rugrats that don't know how to behave.
But
you get switched.
Whatever you decide is whatever you decide. There's nothing right or wrong about any of it. You just have to make sure you and your partner are on the same page. So that's another thing that I would say about gender roles. When you get married, you'll have a lot of people give you unsolicited advice on what should and shouldn't be, and you can set a boundary.
All over your marriage.
Yeah, you can set a boundary, or you can, depending on who, sometimes when it's parents and older people, you're like, oh, thanks a lot, because you just take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes it's great wisdom, but sometimes it's like, that's not what we're gonna do. But it's okay to just listen. But whatever it is you decide, just make sure that you both are on the same page. And you can have a mashup. Like, I like to identify myself as a modern traditionalist. So a traditional woman with modern values. So a lot of that stuff that traditionally, it makes sense for me. But I also have aspirations that maybe specifically traditional only woman may not. So it's fine. The only person that it has to work for is your spouse. So sit there and decide what you want. And it's something that's ever evolving. So when you get married, you might think, oh, I love to cook all that, which I do the majority of the cooking. But I have no problem saying like, babe, can you handle it? Or, he will always offer to get some food or something. You find a way to like do this dance that makes sense for the two of you, and it works.
Yeah. Or cook. I mean, I enjoy cooking too. It just, normally I enjoy my business more. I enjoy working and doing other things, but I do enjoy cooking, and it's good. So it's not like something that I don't like to do. But, and just to kind of tie this up, I want people to think about just being, like I said, like we said, just being open and having the dialogue, not judging, really listening to that person, and being open to change, being open to doing that. And I would just say, what I would suggest if you're, parents or single and you're wondering, always look at how you can become a better understanding person and also just working on yourself. I will tell you this, not many people have an issue with people knowing how to cook. I mean, like, if you don't, try it out. Like, at least get a couple staples under your belt. If you want, I would just tell you, as men, we like to eat, and we would love somebody who knows how to cook. Everybody does not like that, but it won't hurt your chances. Put it that way. And then secondly, cleaning, and guys too, like getting better at cleaning. And I'll say this one thing about cleaning. that I learned from it's actually a guy in the military who was doing a speech, and he was talking about just the power of making up your bed is one of the most ways to have a successful day. And I thought he was joking, but he literally was serious, like a general. And he said the reason being is if you make up your bed, you've succeeded in your first task of the day, and it feels good. And now you can take that and carry it out throughout the day and start the day in a good way. And if you have a bad day, at least when you come home to a clean and nice bed. It just always looks good, you know, when you come into a clean. So I like to have that for when she comes in, majority of the time, you know, because she goes off to work, and like I said, work from home. But it does actually make a difference to start and clean a little bit. So that may just be a new habit or a new goal that you can have, is to do things that you may not have done before. Or maybe get rid of some stuff. You know, watch the movie Minimalism, or, you know, just look at maybe you got too much excess to manage. So any other tips that you might have, Steph?
Nope. Just go ahead and maybe this week, just if you haven't discussed gender roles and you're in a relationship, maybe this week would be a good time to kind of discuss that. If you're single, think about what you really want. Don't think about the fantasy of what it is to be with someone, because the fantasy is always so much better than the reality. Not to say the reality isn't great, but the reality comes with the reality. So really think about what type of person you are and what you really want and what you'd hope to have in a future spouse, and then make that list and then go from there.
And just think about like what you really want out of it. Think about it like we said, people are normally not living off of $20,000 and $30,000 a year like they used to back in the day, or even 50. It's just inflation, times that, you know, things have changed, so be open to that. I like to, you know, give her as much as I can and provide in that way, but you just kind of look at it from what works for you all. And then number two is, the last thing is, create your SMART goals. We want to see you guys put up some goals in the comments, like put up some short ones, some long term. What are some of your goals? Places you want to travel by yourself or with someone, those types of things. And, you know, we love to hear them and comment on them. So I think that's it. We have one part of this series that's coming up, the last part of the series, 3 more things that we're going to talk about. It's going to be a little heavier, and we look forward to that. So we definitely want you to check out part 3 of this series.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for watching Our 4 Cents. Keep the change.